Hi, everyone. It's been a while since I've done a podcast. Here I am again, in English. I'll explain later why that I'm doing this podcast in English. But for now, I want to talk about what the podcast will be about so that you can decide if you want to listen or not. I will start off by telling a very painful story of a girl that was horribly sexually abused. And we had the most beautiful conversation during all this pain that I asked her if I could share it with you, and she said yes. Because we both hope that it might help some people that are going through difficulty. Maybe not sexual abuse, but maybe situations that feel very overwhelming. And this conversation might help you to look at it in a different way. I doubted to do a podcast starting with a story on sexual abuse because it would have been very triggering for me in the past, because this is my past too. But I will not go into detail at all. So if you've been abused and you are curious and you're afraid of overwhelm by hearing painful, triggering facts, that won't be the case. And so using it as a metaphor, I hope this podcast can be hopeful to many people and can be a metaphor for things going on in your own life. Okay, let's go. Let me start off by telling you why I'm doing this podcast in English, because and why you haven't heard me for quite a while now. It's because I was doing a lot of things at the same time, and making a podcast of nearly an hour, it means I need to focus on the content of what it is that I want to tell you, what it is that I think is valuable to bring to you. And my head just wasn't there to make that content. I was very surprised and of course honored when people started calling me up, sending me messages through all kinds of ways to tell me that the podcast is very useful for them and that they miss it and that they want to hear more of me. That was surprising to me, because I'm not always aware of the value that this podcast has for people. But thank you so much for sending me these messages. I didn't doubt to continue, but of course it helped to speed things up a bit. Why am I doing it in English? What are the things that I'm all worked up in, and what made it difficult to make this content is that I am embarking in an adventure that is very important to me, which is to go the path of becoming a professional speaker. I've had many stages during the last 15 years that I stood on, but never as a keynote speaker. And ever since my sister died, it was literally a dream that I had to walk onto a stage and to talk to people about a mixture of my own experiences and the expertise that I had before this happened, and that only grew after my sister no longer chose to be with us, and like to give people hope and to help them find a way through. And so it took me quite a while to say, okay, I really want to go on this journey. I really want to see how this can work out for me. And the goal is to start traveling through Europe to talk on all kinds of stages. And of course, that means that I want to reach to an English-speaking audience. So that's why I'm doing the podcast in English. I feel a bit guilty about it because I don't want to lose Dutch-speaking listeners. I know that this podcast means a lot to a lot of people. So I think some of you might be very disappointed that it will be in English. I hope you keep listening. We'll see about that. So going onto a new path always, for me anyway, is accompanied by feelings of guilt, feelings of letting people down, anxiety. I'm scared shitless of where this journey will lead to, and if this dream can come to life and I can really actually go do this, we'll see about that. It might mean lose some people, in this case in the podcast, but it's always a risk when you dare to say, this is my dream, and to follow it. Even when I speak about it now, I can notice this very small voice in my head that says, really? Following a fairy tale? Is that what you want to do? Sounds a bit like a dream. And we often have the tendency to wave away dreams that we have. And I truly believe that life is a gift, not a right. And I truly believe that we often forget that. And that that it is, for me, an obligation to an engagement that I have toward a promise that I want to hold for myself, is to say, I want to really love the life that I am leading. I really want to do the things that make my life feel that it was worth living. I would strive for that every day. How can my day be meaningful to myself, to other people? Work in progress is thinking about me, but following this dream is thinking about me. So, yeah, I guess that if you have a dream, if there is something that may not be clear to you, because that's something else, but that really matters to you, spend time with it, talk about it with people, write it down, make a mood board, whatever works for you, but keep engaging in getting this dream closer to you and bringing it to life. So anyway, that's why I'm speaking in English, and I hope you will all keep listening. The theme of today is self-love. Let me disclose that from the start. And let me tell you a story. I've helped a girl who has been through the most horrific rape that I can imagine. I mean, I've heard a lot of stories, and this really is in my top one, basically. So I helped her get through that, which is very possible, by the way, if that is one of your stories. She was really strong. I mean, we're 3 years further in time. She was really doing well. And then there was this horrible news on the news that a boy in Belgium was declared guilty of rape by a judge. But they decided that because of what really happened that night and his future opportunities, that even though he was guilty, he was not going to have to do any kind of sentence. The minute I saw the news, I never looked into the dossier. I never checked what really happened, or I don't need to. I don't want to. It's not relevant. But the minute I heard the news, my stomach crumbled, and I immediately thought of all the people that I've seen and that I treated for rape, and I knew they would be shocked and they would be hurt. And so in the days after, I got a few phone calls from people who were really triggered and overwhelmed and couldn't sleep anymore and were highly agitated and so forth. And so they called me up to ask if I could see them, which in a way made me happy. It's a weird word to use in this context, but I was happy that they reached out, because I think I wouldn't have. I think I would have been so angry that this happened and that my day, that I would be back in time and that I would be overwhelmed all over again, and that because this judge decided this, I would have to pay to work on myself again, after having done that, in such a huge challenge. So I would have felt more resistance, which would have taken a longer time to go back to my therapist or whatever, which would, of course, not have been a great thing to do, to then wanting to pretend that this news didn't happen. I would have been in more trouble. But they all called me up and said, I want to see you. So this girl came to my office, and the first appointment we had, she ranted about this isn't fair and I don't feel understood and I'm overwhelmed all over again and I don't want this, etc. And we got her back to feeling the ground under her feet, coming a bit more to herself. And then the second time she came in and the overwhelm was all back. She didn't sleep enough. She looked very tired. She cried almost through the whole session. And everything that she encountered was big for her. So I started saying or reflecting to her, like, if your feelings wouldn't be that big. She for example, mentioned that she couldn't be there for a friend it was her birthday, and she couldn't give her a present because she didn't have the energy to look for a present. And so she cried and she said she's not going to forgive me, and this is awful. I'm an awful person, that I don't show up for her birthday party, and that I don't have a present for her, and I'm an awful person. And she cried her eyes out, and then she told another story, and it was again like an overwhelm. And every time she told me a new story, I asked her, I think your feelings at this moment are very big. If you now feel worried, you probably will get an anxiety attack. And if you're irritated, you might feel an overwhelm of anger. And if you're sad, then you might weep for a whole hour because you're totally overwhelmed. And if you feel alone, you feel totally alone in every fiber of your being, and there is no more room for anything else because these feelings are so big. And I think your thoughts are so big as well. You feel that people feel you're a burden. You feel a total burden. Like there's nothing. They actually, they want to get rid of you, but they feel pity for you at the moment, so they don't want to get rid of you. But actually, they do. You feel you can't be forgiven for the overwhelm that you feel. You feel totally not understood. You can't, at this point, you have a difficulty in, this is not right sentence, but you understand what I'm saying. You find it difficult to carry your thoughts, to carry those emotions because they're so big. And because they're so big, you only have two options. One is to pretend they're not there, to avoid them, to get them under control, to like dampen them as much as you can, to flee from them. And on the other hand, you are totally overwhelmed and you're like there is no difference anymore between you and your feelings. You are feelings from top to bottom. And she said, yeah, that sounds about right. So I said, if that is the case, then maybe what would happen if your emotions will go back to like a normal state, like when you feel more at ease? Do you think you will feel the same way? Do you think you will think the same way about, for example, your friend? Will she not forgive you? And she said, I think she would. She really likes me. So you could see how she went from total overwhelm to calming down, and then she went back. And so we did a whole session from overwhelm to calming down, etc. The thing that she found the hardest was, I'm a burden to other people because I feel overwhelmed. And so I said, okay, so maybe for you in this moment, it's good to know you've been hit by a tsunami, and you're asking those people who have lost a lot of family and who have lost their houses and their homes and everything that's dear to them. And 6 years later, they have a house, they have a lot of friends who care about them, and they're not allowed to cry anymore. They're not allowed to feel overwhelmed, because then they would be a burden, because they have everything now. Everything looks fine on the outside, but they've lost a lot. So if you would just look on the outside and you wouldn't take into account their history, then you're totally right. Why would you be crying? What could possibly be wrong? But if you look into their past and you take that with you as an ingredient in this soup, then the soup tastes different. So you need to take that into account because it's part of your life. It's part of the reason that you're reacting the way you do. I said, for me, I often use this metaphor where I tell people I feel like I've been in this massive storm outside. My clothes are wet and I need to give them time to dry up. And as long as they're wet, I will want to rip my clothes off my body and I will have to carry it. They're wet and they need to dry. And she slowly started to calm down a bit. Her breathing became slower. She cried less. And so I asked her if this situation, which is horrible that it happened to you, that some judge decides something and your life feels like it's over. The 3 years that have gone by where you've done fantastic, beautiful things are gone. I'm so sorry. And I can't predict that it will never happen again. It is part of you. It is part of what you've been through. And the same goes for me. This is part of what I've been through, my history. And at times I'm triggered. The thing is, do I make a point of being triggered? And is it a thing? Is it a big thing that I'm triggered? Or can I learn to deal with my triggers so that it no longer is a thing that needs to feel like the end of my life is near? And she said, I want that because I am not suicidal. I don't have any concrete plans But sometimes it feels like it's enough. I don't want this anymore, this pain, which I totally understand. Because overwhelm and panic and crying, it is the most horrible feeling that you can have if it's that big. So I asked her, if this is, so massive, are you taking that up as an ingredient? Is it part of how you're handling this? Is it part of the conclusion of what you need to do with this? Or are you trying to get over it and function as quickly as you can and take up your old life again, and you don't want to have these emotions? Or are you saying, okay, this is an ingredient of my dinner, and I don't know for how long, but it's here to stay, apparently, a while? Are you adjusting your behavior? And of course she didn't want to. Of course she didn't want to. I wouldn't want to either, to take it into account. I would also love to do as if it didn't happen, and to get stuck on emotions of, this isn't fair, I don't want this, of course. I said that's the most, for me, the most difficult part of being human. Your whole system tells you today that you were massively triggered. And that means that your body and your mind is trying to help you. These massive feelings and these massive thoughts are there to show you there has been an alarm. We need to be alert, and we need to be awake. Can't sleep. Our muscles need to be tense because we need to be ready to fight. And our thoughts need to be big because there is this disaster. And if we don't treat it as a disaster, we will not react accordingly. So everything inside of you is on survival mode. And the thing that you need right now to become safe is to stop being in survival mode and to go to self-care, self-love, which means that if you're in a combat mode, and I would tell you, maybe you can lit a candle, maybe you can take a bath, maybe you want to go to the store and buy something you like. I think you would like to smack me if I were to tell you that. If you're in combat, you don't have time to listen to that kind of crap. And yet, as a human, that's where we have so much intelligence and so much stored, a fantastic system that tells us what to do, how to bring ourselves into a safe situation. And yet, it makes us feel unsafe. It does the opposite of what we need. So how can I help you get from feeling overwhelmed and being in survival mode to going to doing stuff that is about self-love? And then maybe this situation might help you to go from feeling overwhelmed because there is this massive challenge that you're triggered about, to starting to use those things to have a stronger relationship with yourself and to feel more self-love. And then maybe this isn't lost, this situation. Maybe this is then a practice for you to find more self-love as a basis to find forgiveness for yourself in being overwhelmed. But the choice is yours. You can choose to stay in survival mode, which I would absolutely understand. But with survival mode comes that your mind cannot calm down because it needs to stay alert. Your thoughts will stay big. Your feelings cannot calm down because you need to stay alert. You need to be in survival mode. So overwhelm will be part of the journey. You will feel like nobody likes you. Nobody cares about you. That will be part of staying in survival mode. Or maybe you can try and help your system to calm down, to slowly put the weapons down, slowly become more kind and gentle, slowly take your breathing to a pace where it can help you slow down. And then maybe there is room to do something that helps you rather than something that hardens you and that brings you further away from you. She said, I want to do this. She's so courageous. I mean, I admire her so much for how she deals with this. I asked her if I could do the podcast. I think I said that before, and she said yes. And I really felt like, yes, of course you do. You're so typically you to be so strong to say, sure, use it if it can help anybody. I've been struggling lately, just telling you a different story. I've been struggling lately with a lot of overwhelm due to hormonal issues, perimenopause issues. It's absolutely not been easy. I have been extremely tired. If in this point of my life I would have had issues, like for instance in my relationship or in my job or whatever, then I would really have been easily convinced that I would have a burnout, which is not the case. My muscles are feeling very painful. A lot of migraines. It really absolutely has not been easy. I had to make choices in who to see relationship-wise, friendship-wise, because I just didn't have energy left at all. I went to Malaga to start a masterclass for advanced speakers, which was stressful. And my body just really reacted very out of completely dysregulated, which was very hard and it still is at times. And at first I resisted it and I was angry and I really felt like this body, I want it interchangeable. I want to go to the store and get a new body. I hate it. I don't want it. I want to be a man. I want so many things, but not to feel any of this burden, until I realized that I know very well how that doesn't help if we fight ourselves, if we don't take responsibility for how we feel and we don't deal with it. So the sentence I started using, which really helped me, it's a very small thing. Nothing changed. I still felt like crap. But the sentence I started using is, it's okay. You're having a difficult time. And this will, at a certain point, will this evaporate and it will change into a different situation. But for now, you're having a difficult time. And I said it to my body, I said it to my mind, I said it to my heart, to whatever part of me that needed to hear, you're going through a difficult time, a very challenging, difficult time. It's okay. And it shifted how I related to this situation. If I compare both situations, then mine is peanuts. And at the same time, I strongly believe, and I think I can say that because my backpack is also filled with a lot of very painful situations. So I feel entitled to say it. I really believe that life is not about what we go through, however unjust or painful it is. I really believe that life is about how you deal with that type of situations. And I mean, I'm overwhelmed too at times, and I can also be frustrated and very sad and overwhelmed and anxious and all of that. And at a certain point, I take my own responsibility to say, okay, the way I'm dealing with this isn't really effective for me. I need to change this. I need to do this differently. And maybe that means I need to say difficult things to people. Maybe I have other challenging things I need to do. For example, work less. Although if that's another often discussed topic when, for example, people have a burnout, they want to keep working. They want to keep, they don't want to let go, which of course is the same thing. It's like your survival mode wants you to hang on because it somehow feels like the smartest thing to do. And what you at that point just don't see is your whole system feels awful. And your answer to your system is bringing stress to it, bringing overwhelm to it. Of course, that's not effective. It might not mean that you need to stay home. I'm not really a fan of everybody who has a burnout to stay home at all. It just means that the way that you're relating to the situation, the way that you're relating to yourself is by setting yourself, like diminishing yourself, not respecting yourself, humiliating yourself. And how can that ever be an answer to getting better, to feeling that you can trust yourself, that things will be okay if you're shaking up your ground constantly and you need stability? Okay. As a first podcast after a long time, I can imagine this is a heavy one. Although I think many of you listeners think that podcasts of mine are kind of heavy. So I don't think you will be surprised. I hope it meant something to you. If it did, I still can use a lot of ratings. I still can use feedback on the podcast itself. It means that more people can listen to it. So if you have any feedback, please do it in the podcast itself if you can. That would be amazing. You would really help me and, of course, the podcast. Many more podcasts to come. I'm not sure when. I'm taking my time to think about that. But I'm not done yet talking to you and listening to where I can be of value. So talk to you soon. Bye.